What if a skyscraper didn't rise straight into the sky, but deliberately leaned into it? In the heart of Abu Dhabi stands a building that looks as though it has frozen mid-fall, a 524-foot tower leaning at a dramatic 18 degrees, nearly 5 times the tilt of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Yet unlike Pisa, this was no accident of soil or centuries of settlement. This was intentional, calculated, engineered to challenge gravity without ever breaking its rules. Capital Gate was conceived during a time when global cities were competing not just for height, but for identity, and Abu Dhabi wanted something unmistakable, a structure that would attract the world not because it was the tallest, but because it dared to do something others would not attempt. Designing a leaning skyscraper is not simply a matter of angling walls. It is a complex orchestration of physics, force distribution, and structural foresight. When a building leans, gravity no longer travels cleanly down into the ground. It pulls sideways, creating immense lateral forces that try to twist, bend, and uproot the structure. To counter this, engineers began below the surface, drilling more than 400 deep concrete piles into the ground, some extending far deeper than others, carefully positioned to anchor the tower against the enormous asymmetric load it would carry. Nearly 10,000 tons of soil were excavated just to prepare the foundation, and every calculation had to be exact, because even a minor misjudgment could amplify stress across the structure. But the real innovation was hidden inside the tower itself. Traditional skyscrapers rely on straight vertical cores, rigid concrete spines that stabilize the building, but Capital Gate required something radically different. Engineers designed a pre-cambered core, meaning it was built leaning slightly in the opposite direction during construction. As floors were added and weight increased, the core gradually shifted into its intended 18-degree lean, settling into equilibrium like a controlled counterbalance. It was not gravity being defeated, but gravity being anticipated. Outside, the building's steel exoskeleton took shape in 720 uniquely fabricated steel sections, each one different from the next, because a leaning structure does not repeat geometry the way a vertical tower does. Every panel, every frame, every connection had to be custom engineered, some weighing up to 16,000 kilograms, forming a diagrid system that redistributed stress across the facade rather than concentrating it in one vulnerable line. Construction itself brought environmental challenges. Abu Dhabi's summer temperatures can climb beyond 45 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cause concrete to set too quickly and compromise its integrity. To prevent microcracking and structural weakness, engineers poured concrete at night, when temperatures dropped, and even mixed chilled water and ice into the concrete blend to control curing speed. Precision was not optional. It was survival. As the structure rose, its profile began to shift dramatically with height, the upper floors extending outward so that the top of the tower sits more than 100 feet west of its base. From certain angles, it appears almost impossible, as if momentum has been paused mid-motion. And then, just as the project neared completion, an unexpected request arrived: a helipad on the roof. The building was already operating at carefully calculated tolerances, and adding the weight and aerodynamic complexity of helicopter landings introduced new risks. Engineers returned to simulations and wind tunnel testing, analyzing how desert gusts could interact with the tilted geometry. The solution required redesigning the helipad structure and adjusting its height to reduce turbulence and landing instability, proving once again that innovation is not a single moment of brilliance, but a series of disciplined adjustments. When Capital Gate was completed in 2010, it was officially recognized as the world's furthest leaning man-made tower, but its true achievement lies deeper than records. It represents a philosophy of modern architecture where aesthetics and engineering are inseparable, where bold design must be supported by invisible mathematical certainty. Standing in Abu Dhabi's skyline, it does not simply lean, it performs a controlled negotiation with gravity, wind, and time. It is a reminder that the future of architecture is not about building higher at any cost, but about building smarter, braver, and more precisely than ever before.